another nail in my coffin!
Hey everybody, it's me, friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete, and this is my series Nails in a Coffin, where we learn that with great kills, there must also come great nails. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. Today we're nailing Puppet Master The Littlest Reich, which is the 12th movie in the Puppet Master franchise. Here's a look at the average nails in a coffin for all the movies I've covered so far. This movie was a Shudder exclusive, and it's in its own continuity with no connection to any other previous movies in the Puppet Master franchise. What's that? Blade doesn't have a good feeling about this movie, but I hope he's wrong, so we'll have to see. So sit back, relax, get ready, and we're going to put some nails in a coffin with Puppet Master The Littlest Reich. The movie starts in Pottsville, Texas in 1989. Andre Toulon, played here by Udo Kier, he visits a bar and he's got burn scars all over his head. He creeps out the bartender Candace and her girlfriend Nancy. After he leaves the bar, we see the two women driving home. They're talking about having a baby. Then all of a sudden, they hear a sound coming from the back seat. In a flash, we see Pinhead garrote Candace right as the hood of the car flies open. She slams on the brake and the wire decapitates her. For the first kill in the Littlest Reich, I'm going to award Candace 2 nails in a coffin. She did nothing wrong, just driving home at night, and I couldn't understand why neither her or Nancy saw Pinhead in the back seat. And when the car's hood popped, she slammed on the brakes, which is what I feel like most people would do. As soon as Pinhead wrapped the wire around her neck and the hood opened, so she really had no time to react at all. She wasn't really given much of a chance to survive this, how fast everything happened, so wasn't given much of a chance to go down the middle and give her 2 nails in a coffin. Her girlfriend Nancy was killed off screen, so I can't give her a nail rating because we don't know specifically how she died. Short while later, rookie police officer Carol Doreski and her partner were investigating this murder scene. We later see them enter Andre Toulon's mansion, and they open fire right away when he pulled a weapon on them. And this Andre Toulon is killed off screen. We didn't see what happened to him, but we do hear about it later. But it was off screen, so I'm going to be unable to give him a nail rating. After the credits, we're now in Dallas, Texas, 30 years later. Eddie Easton, played wonderfully by Tom Lennon, arrives at his parents' home where he's going to be staying until he finds his own place to live following his divorce. He finds his dead younger brother's prized possession, a puppet that turns out to be this version of Blade. I know it's not real, you Blade, don't worry about it. You are the one original, one and only Blade. That's not really Blade as far as I'm concerned. Eddie works at a comic shop, which is awesome. After some research, Eddie finds that the puppet is based off the Andre Toulon puppets, where he did shows during the Third Reich. Eddie learns that there's an auction dedicated to the original Toulon puppets at a nearby hotel, celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Toulon murders. So Eddie, his old crush Ashley, and Eddie's boss, Makowitz, all plan to go to the auction and sell the Blade puppet. The three of them check into the hotel and they go on a tour, which is led by Carol Doreski, played by the lovely Barbara Crampton. Remember, she's the police officer that killed Andre Toulon 30 years ago. She's retired from the police force and she makes a living as a tour guide for the Toulon estate. She points out that some of Andre's puppets have been stolen, and this version of Andre Toulon was an evil man who assaulted, tortured, and murdered women. Eddie and Ashley go back to their room, and Ashley is ready for some happy time. But before they can make friends with each other, they see that the Blade puppet is no longer in the box that they brought him in. They think it's been stolen, and they report to hotel security, but they did miss the hole in the side of the box. In another part of the hotel, Jason and Rachel Gottlieb, they enter the room and they see something quickly run underneath the bed. Rachel mentions that their puppet Kaiser is missing. Jason finds it under the bed, and it's actually the Torch puppet. Jason is holding a puppet while he talks to Rachel. Torch turns his flame on and kills the both of them. I'm going to award this couple 1.5 nails in a coffin apiece. They were just a couple trying to sell an old puppet at an auction, and I do find it odd that they didn't question how the puppet got itself under the bed when they saw something run underneath the bed. That doesn't make much sense. They kind of just glossed over that part. Neither of them thought anything fishy was going on, and I just found that odd. If it was me, I think somebody was in my room, but not these two, and that just doesn't sit right with me. And when Torch pointed a flame at them, they didn't drop the puppet, throw it, stop, drop, and roll, or do anything. Like, they had no reflexes. So I'm going to take some points away from that and give each of them 1.5 nails in the coffin. Meanwhile, in another room in a hotel, Richard and Goldie are having their own happy time with each other. Richard has Goldie up against the window, and when Blade, he comes out of the closet, runs up behind him, and slashes Richard's Achilles tendon. This causes him and Goldie to fall to the floor with Goldie on top of Richard. Blade jumps on top of Goldie and stabs her to death, and then he kills Richard off screen by stabbing him to death. I'm going to rate these two together since they were intertwined when they were killed, and I'm going to give each of them one nail in the coffin. When Richard had his ankle slashed, he did fall down with Goldie on top of him, but he never tried to get her off of him or get up so he can see what actually happened to his foot. The same goes for Goldie. You know, she fell on the floor, was on top of Richard. I think she thought it was all part of the happy time. But when the Blade puppet jumped on her, she didn't try and fight him off, use her arms, or do anything, even when he was stabbing her. She just screamed, and Richard never tried to push her off or do anything of the such. It was really easy for Blade to kill these two, so they're each going to get one nail in the coffin. Ezekiel is in his room watching wrestling, and he has a new puppet we haven't seen before, Autogyro, in the room with him. He goes to use the bathroom, and while he's peeing, Autogyro starts up his rotor blade, takes off across the room. He flies into the bathroom, swoops across Ezekiel's neck, slashing his throat. Autogyro then hits the back of his neck, decapitating him. His head falls into the toilet while he's still peeing, in one of the grossest kills in the entire franchise. Ezekiel did earn himself 2 nails in the coffin. He never knew it hit him. You know, he was attacked while he was using the bathroom, and he wasn't really given any chance to survive. I didn't see anything he could have done to avoid this kill, considering the circumstances. He just wanted you to use the bathroom. He had no inclination. A puppet would fly and try and chop his throat off, but yeah, he was dead before he knew what happened, so the best I can do for him is give him 2 nails in the coffin. Eddie is questioned by security officer Detective Brown, played by Streets of Fire and Eddie the Cruiser star Michael Paré. He finds out that other people have had their puppets stolen as well. Meanwhile, Christian is in his room on the phone talking to his mom about his sobriety while he's drinking. The puppet he has looks like a cross between Blade and Dr. Death. And when Christian is looking online about the auction, the puppet climbs out of the box. Christian looks back in the box, sees the puppet's missing. He's kind of confused at what happened. Then the puppet runs across the room, guts Christian, slashes his throat, and then stabs him in the eye. Christian is awarded 1.5 nails in the coffin, and the reason I'm not giving him 2 nails, you know, when he opened the box, he saw the puppet in there, and a few seconds later, it was gone. He knew he was the only person in the room, but he never got out of the chair to see what was going on. Why don't you get up to look for the puppet, or to see if somebody else was in your room? If he got out of the chair and looked around, he may have seen the puppet run up to him and, you know, try and attack him, but he didn't. So the best I can do for this guy is give him 1.5 nails in the coffin. Our next on-screen death is Princess and Stromason, played by Matthias Hughes from and many other great action films. They just finished making friends with each other, which a lot of people are doing in this movie. Everyone is called downstairs by the Detective Brown since people are dying and they're all the missing puppets. Stromason, he opens a closet and he's attacked from behind by Junior Fuhrer, a mini Adolf Hitler puppet, yuck. He rips open Stromason's back and possesses him. And while this is happening, Princess is attacked when Blade drops down from a hole in the ceiling and he slashes her throat. The kills in this movie are really weird. No one tries anything once they're attacked. They just kind of let it happen. That's why I'm going to give both of these two 1.5 nails in the coffin. I haven't seen anybody yet struggle or resist, fight back, scream, do anything. Appears to be a theme with the deaths in this movie where the victims just kind of let it happen. Now, granted, these two were attacked from above and behind. They really didn't see the attack coming. So I was going to be a little bit generous and give them the extra half a nail. Both of them getting 1.5 nails in the coffin. Detective Brown has all the occupants of the hotel in the lobby. He's telling everyone they can't leave until they're cleared by the police. While he's talking to everyone, the power starts to go off and on, and this causes people to panic. They run out of the hotel. Betsy was one of the first people out of the hotel. When she gets to the gate, she tries to climb over it, but she's unable to do so. Autogyro flies over, slashes her across the gut, killing her right by the gate. The kills are starting to pile up, and Betsy's getting 1 nail in the coffin. You know, if she didn't panic and run without thinking where she was going, she may have survived. And after she realized she couldn't climb at a gate, she just kind of turned around with her arms spread across the bars of the gate, opening herself up. You know, if her plan was to run and get away, you know, she should have run to a car. I just feel like if she stayed in an hotel and didn't run away, she may have survived this encounter. But the evil puppets in this movie pretty much set this up as a trap, and people fell for it. Betsy, you're getting 1 nail in the coffin. Right after Betsy was killed, we see another woman run and get in her car. She starts it, but before she can drive away, she sees Pinhead in the back seat. And before she can do anything, Pinhead grabs her head and just crushes it with his hand. I'm going to give this unnamed woman 2 nails in a coffin. I give her credit for running directly to a car. She had her keys ready, and started her car right away. She only paused when she saw movement in the back seat, but she wasn't given any time once she saw Pinhead. She had no clue what Pinhead really was, and as soon as she saw him, he did grab her head, and with his incredible strength in this movie, I guess, just kind of crushed her head. She wasn't given much of a chance, but she did try, so I'm going to give her 2 nails in the coffin. Another hotel guest, Brian, he runs to his buddy Travis's car, and he's let in. He jumps in the passenger seat and tells Travis to start the effing car. The Blade puppet with the skull head jumps onto Brian and starts stabbing him. Brian falls out of the car. He's all slashed up. Not dead just yet. Not until Pinhead walks up to him holding a car engine over his head, and he drops it on Brian's head, killing him. Brian did himself 1.5 nails in a coffin. I'm glad I started doing these half nails. It's a little easier to do some ratings. As soon as he got in the car, he was attacked by the puppet. His friend Travis was a crap friend. He didn't even try and help him. He just ran. Brian was stabbed multiple times by the skull blade puppet, and he threw himself out of the car in an effort to get away. So I want to give him credit for at least trying to get away and fighting the puppet that was attacking him. But when Pinhead was standing over him with the car engine over his head, I don't know where, did Pinhead just rip an engine out of a car and use it as a weapon? How strong is this Pinhead? Anyways, Brian just saw it and shook his head like, no! But he contracted that puppet master disease where victims forget they have arms. But I'm going to give him that extra half an hour for at least getting out of the car. The evil puppets are taking siege of the hotel. Carol just shot out one of the puppets, Mechanicer. She goes to a window, but she's knocked out when a brick is thrown through the window. Officer Miller goes to check on her. He's down on one knee trying to wake her up. Pinhead grabs his arm, rips it off, and he dies from his wounds. This is a frustrating movie. I'm giving Officer Miller 1 nail in the coffin. His arm was grabbed by Pinhead, but he never tried to pull it back, use his other arm, use his sidearm that was on his hip, or even use the gun that was laying on the floor in front of him. All he did was scream and die. He didn't try anything. If you don't try, you're going to easily get 1 nail in the coffin from me. Everybody is in the hotel's kitchen trying to figure out how these puppets are working and who could be behind all this. Stromelson is also there. He's still possessed by one of the puppets. He's standing next to an officer. When he grabs the officer's gun, shoots him in the head. He then immediately points his gun at Letitia, one of the maids, shoots her in the head, killing her. I'm going to award Officer Hope 1 nail in the coffin. It shouldn't have been so easy for someone to unholster the officer's weapon and use it against him. When Stromelson grabbed the weapon, the officer never moved. He just kind of looked at him. He didn't try to take his gun back. He didn't say anything. He didn't really move. Even watching how I nail victims in horror movies, you know that I hold law enforcement security officers to a higher standard since I believe the character is supposed to have some type of training. This guy obviously had none. He just stood there. So he's getting 1 nail in the coffin. Letitia, she was an innocent victim here. I'm going to give her 2 nails in a coffin. She was standing there and didn't have much of any time to react. She did freeze when the gun was pointed at her, but I don't think she had any time at all. I think her reaction was justified. She was probably terrified. I don't think there was much she could have done, thanks to Officer Hope. She wasn't given a chance to survive. So, being generous, I'm going to give Miss Letitia 2 nails in the coffin. Eddie, Ashley, Markowitz, and Narissa were holding up in a hotel room. Eddie and Markowitz went to another room when they heard calls for help, but it was too late. That person was dead. They get back to the room, and the girls were gone. Markowitz was knocked down when Pinhead, Grasshopper, and Blade pushed the door open. Grasshopper attacked Eddie. Pinhead was punching Markowitz. Ashley, who was in the closet, she jumped out and shot Pinhead. Eddie took care of Grasshopper. They helped Markowitz on the couch, where Blade dropped through a hole in the ceiling, landed on Markowitz's chest, and quickly stabbed him in the throat, killing him. Markowitz earned himself 3 nails in the coffin. As Markowitz was dying, he told Eddie to jump out the window and land in a dumpster to get away, and he even asked Eddie to dedicate his next comment to him, a great Jewish hero. He asked Narissa if he had a chance with her. She said about a 60% chance, and this made him happy as he was passing away from his wounds. This guy was proud of who he was, and everybody knew it, even as he was dying. During all the panic in the hotel, he never lost his composure, and in this franchise, that says a lot. By far, one of the better characters in this film, and one of my favorite characters in the franchise, even though I don't like this movie. He was a fun character, so taking everything into consideration, I think Mr. Markowitz deserves 3 nails in the coffin. After Markowitz dies, Eddie, Ashley, and Narissa all plan to jump out of the window and land into the dumpster below. Ashley jumps out first. She lands safely and climbs out, followed by Eddie. He climbs out and he's embracing Ashley right as Narissa gets ready to jump. When she jumps, she misses the dumpster and smashes her head on the side of it, killing her instantly. I'm awarding Narissa 1 nail in the coffin. It was a large dumpster she was jumping into. The other two landed safely. The window was even centered over it, so all she had to do was jump straight out. I don't know how she flew to the side. It didn't make any sense, but a lot of this movie doesn't make any sense. Narissa, 1 nail in the coffin. Carol, again, played by the lovely Barbara Crampton, is fighting off the puppets. She gets cornered in a restroom and kills one of the puppets when it's shot in the head. But now she's out of bullets. When she's backing up, another skull blade puppet jumps down on her, stabs her in the neck, killing her. She was one of the best characters in this movie. I mean, like I said, it is Barbara Crampton, but I have to give Carol 2 nails in the coffin. I do think she made a mistake by backing up the entire time, never checking out her 6, especially when she ran out of rounds. She did corner herself in the bathroom, and that wasn't the smartest thing she could have done. But she escapes getting 1 nail in the coffin since she did save lives and take charge of getting people to safety. You know, throughout the whole movie, she was selfless. She was a good officer, you know, trying to save people and not be selfish. And when you're selfless in a movie like this, you're going to get some extra points. And Barbara Crampton, I can't give her anything less than 2 nails in the coffin. Eddie and Ashley are in a truck and they drive to the mausoleum where Andre Toulon is buried. Eddie has a plan. They crash into the building and this causes Andre Toulon to wake up and it causes all the puppets to stop moving. After the crash, Eddie backs the truck up, but it's now disabled. Andre Toulon's corpse wakes up and approaches Eddie and Ashley. Ashley shoots at Andre a couple times, but the bullets have no effect on him. Andre gets up to them. He's choking Ashley, but Eddie hits him with a piece of rebar, and Andre lets go, walks away. Eddie is checking on Ashley while Andre grabs a gun that was in his sarcophagus, I guess. He walks up to them, shoots Ashley in the head, and after she dies, Andre just walks into the night. We're at the final death at the end of this movie, and I hated the end of this movie. But I am going to give Ashley 2 nails in the coffin. Up until the ending, she was one of the stars of the movie. She took charge, saved others, kept Eddie going. But they crapped all over her character in the last minute. Now, granted, Eddie should have made sure Andre was down for good instead of just letting him walk away. But when they both saw Andre standing there with the gun, neither of them did move, and that was kind of stupid. But I'm going to give Ashley credit for everything she did up until this point. I mean, she was just being choked out. So she's going to get some extra points for that. But I did not like the way this movie ended. And all I can do is give Ashley 2 nails in the coffin. There were a bunch of deaths in this movie, and about half of them were off-screen or just implied. But there were still 19 on-screen deaths, one of the highest body counts in the franchise. But there we have it. Those are all my nails in the coffin for Puppet Master, the Littlest Reich. Here's a summary of all the nails I've awarded. Here's a summary of the average nails in the coffin for the first 12 movies in the Puppet Master franchise. And as we can see, the lowest average still goes to Curse of the Puppet Master, and Retro Puppet Master still holds the title for the highest average. And the Puppet MVP for this week is... I'm not giving one. The puppets in this movie were all evil, and none of them really stood out to me anyways to give them an MVP award, because it was just all a mixed bag of insanity. So I didn't like the way these puppets, and specifically the people that these puppets targeted in this movie, wasn't my cup of tea. So hashtag not my puppets. Thanks again, everybody. I really appreciate it. I'll see you here next week when I cover this guy's... Where did you get this? Should I? Maybe next week. But I'll see you guys here next week when I cover one of the last few movies in this franchise, Blade, the Iron Cross. Should be a lot of fun. I'll see you guys next week. Take care of yourselves, everybody. Stay safe, stay happy, be good to each other. I am your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete, and remember, with great kills, there must also come great nails.